you so much. Since we already around halftime of this session, I will be really very quick, and I just would like to complement what Gabriel already told, but with a slightly different content. So I think it's so before we start the panel discussions, it's really important to understand that using biomass in a, let's say, sustainable way, it's really about finding the right balance, because there are pros, so like policies which are really like pushing for increasing the biomass use, and so there are other policies and factors which are more about how can we limit the biomass use. I wouldn't say about the pros, because I think they are quite obvious. Just highlight about the renewable energy share. You know that by 2030, so within 70 years, the EU should double the share of renewable energy, which is like a very ambitious goal compared to where we are now. So it's and of course the biomass is a major technology, so it can be like a needed step for the member states. So let's see what are on the other side. So I will have just one slide for the four other remaining factors that I listed. So first, on the LULUCF regulation, I just wanted to highlight that so it was a very big step forward compared to the previous regulation. That so from the forestry reference level, the new target, it's an actual target, so the minus 310 million tons. And so I just bring here a very recent graph from the European Environmental Agency, where you can see the trends of how the LULUCF sector is going on regarding reaching this target, and so what are the presumptions for the next years. And as you can see, there are also on a Euro-wide a very big gap between what is presumed to be happened and what is the actual target. So we are talking about 50 million tons of gap. I also copy-pasted one very important sentence from the same report, because the EA also analyzed that what can be the gap filler here, and so it's kind of easy. So we can minimizing the deforestation, which is not really a big problem in Central and Eastern Europe, but the other is to reducing forest harvest. And finally, so what is the current structure of the whole biomass reporting? It's really like pushing the responsibility from the energy sector to the LULUCF sector, and finally the RED III made the connection between the two, and so they obliged the member states to make the link between the planned biomass use and the LULUCF target. So the two has to be like in line with each other. And so you could see the trend on the LULUCF sector. This is another trend, the share of fuel wood from total logging. It's really increasing in all over Europe. In some countries very, very dramatically. In some countries not that much, but the trend is quite clear. And then moving on to the carbon removal certification framework, I think it's also important to highlight, because it can contribute to at least decrease the gap on the LULUCF, reaching the LULUCF target. So it's so just a few words about this framework. So it will be like voluntary union-wide certification framework. The sequestered carbon can be registered in an EU-wide registry, and then if the removed carbon is expired, then it will be removed from this registry. And so the main objective from the European perspective to create a market for the sequestered carbon. The big question is that for what this sequestered carbon will be used for. Gabriel, you also mentioned the Green Claims Directive. It's about the products. So in the products, it cannot be labeled that the product is carbon neutral if it's based on offsetting. But the important point is that it's not for companies. And in light of the very steep increase of the ESG sector, there is a very, very big risk that companies will seek for this kind of carbon market, carbon credits, and will claim to be decreasing their emissions with cheap or relatively cheap, let's see the prices, but with this kind of carbon credit. What we advocate for as WWF is to have different targets for carbon mitigation and carbon sequestration, both for let's say natural sequestration, nature-based sequestration, and both for industrial sequestration. And then this whole offsetting on country level and also on corporate level can be solved. And so on the permanent removal, so biomass, it's all over there. So permanent removals, it's relevant because of the future BECCS technology, but also because of the biochar, which is also like biomass based. But of course, the wood products is also part of the LULUCF sector and the LULUCF reporting. My third topic is a sustainable criteria within the RED III. I just highlighted the two main aspects here. So one big achievement was the cascading use of biomass principles. It means that member states should support the use of wood as a material first, and if it cannot be reused or recycled, then the first step before it going to landfills can be to use it for energy productions. And it's important that it's also about the different kind of subsidies. So in theory, member states, if they take this seriously, they should stop subsidizing primary woody biomass use, which around half of the total biomass use on EU level, and instead supporting the use of biomass as a material. And I just put here that what were the alternatives during the revision process. So the European Parliament proposed to have a cap on biomass, so like having the average of the last 5 years, and if the biomass share will be increased, then what is on top of this cap, it cannot be reported as renewable. And the MD Council was more dramatic, or I would say progressive. So their proposal was to rule out primary woody biomass as renewable energy source at all, and then we would solve many other problems. The other part that I highlighted here is the new obligation for stopping or having no new financial or renewing financial support for electricity-only biomass plants. And there is one exemptions here, derogation options, which I think will be relevant for the panel discussions, that those plants which are located in just transition regions, they can be as an exemption, so they can receive this kind of state subsidies. Then my last point is the nature restoration law. You know, this is very recent, so it was just adopted this Monday, but it's also very relevant on the cons part because you know, it's all about restoring the natural habitats, both on land and the maritime areas. There is a very clear target for 2030. So by 2030, 20% of the used lands should be covered by the implementation of this law. And there are specific targets for the forest ecosystem. So the deadwood, amount of deadwood should be increased, which of course means that there, in theory, should be less biomass available for energy use, and also progress on the climate smart forestry management, which also means that it will have some implication on the forestry logging level. And so it's you know, it's a law, so it's not a directive where there are flexibilities, and so member states has to submit their national restoration plans in 2 years. So this regulation is really coming, and it will have an impact before 2030 as well. So it should be counted when we are talking about the 2030 targets as well. So that's all from my side, and let's talk about biomass.